The dynamics of large-scale solar infrastructure in California. The proposal to convert 130,000 acres of California farmland into a 21-gigawatt solar energy hub represents a massive industrial shift that remains currently unverified as a formal project. In the landscape of contemporary renewable energy development, the convergence of drought, agricultural land pressure, and the transition toward carbon neutrality often generates ambitious narratives. While the sheer scale of 21 gigawatts of power capacity, roughly 21,000 megawatts, is technically feasible within the broader context of global engineering, it is essential to distinguish between conceptual possibilities and actionable, documented infrastructure plans. Currently, this specific initiative lacks the necessary government filings, developer credentials, or public project identification to be considered a confirmed development, serving more as an illustrative example of the potential for regional energy transformation rather than an established industrial reality. Understanding the scale and mathematical implications. The magnitude of the proposed project requires a grounded analysis of what such infrastructure entails. When we discuss 130,000 acres, we are talking about an area spanning approximately 203 square miles, which is comparable to the footprint of a large county-scale energy zone. Translating this land use into energy output, the 21-gigawatt target is significant because it would essentially function as a regional energy program rather than a single solar farm. To maintain scientific accuracy, one must understand that solar capacity does not translate linearly into constant power generation. Capacity factors, because solar panels are subject to diurnal cycles and weather conditions, a utility-scale installation in California typically operates at a capacity factor of 25% to 30%. Energy conversion. By applying a 25% capacity factor to a 21-gigawatt system, the average output stabilizes at approximately 5.25 gigawatts, which, when calculated over an 8,760-hour annual cycle, results in roughly 45.99 terawatt-hours of electricity. Consumer impact. This scale of energy production has the potential to support millions of homes, assuming modern household consumption habits and grid integration strategies remain consistent. Evaluating these numbers reveals that the claim is theoretically grounded in physical reality, yet it requires rigorous data validation to ensure the capacity estimates are not merely speculative marketing figures. Distinguishing credible trends from unverified claims. Much of the narrative regarding this potential project aligns with observed trends in California's clean energy sector. For instance, the transition of drought-stressed agricultural land toward energy production is a documented phenomenon, as is the integration of massive utility-scale storage to complement solar intermittency. Furthermore, the promise of new employment opportunities and the revitalization of local economies are standard components of modern industrial proposals. However, identifying these trends does not validate the specific metrics provided. Verification of scope. There is currently no confirmation regarding whether this represents a single massive site or a collection of smaller, multi-phase developments distributed across the state. Land status. The classification of land as underused or unused is a contentious point. In many California regions, land labeled as such may simply be temporarily fallowed due to water restrictions, retaining the potential for future agricultural productivity that could conflict with solar development. Institutional documentation. Without a named developer or an official state filing, the public has no way to audit the proposed job creation numbers, the environmental impact assessments, or the intended life cycle of the infrastructure. It is vital to treat such reports as directional signals, indicators of where the industry is headed, rather than as settled matters of public record. Weighing the benefits against structural challenges. If a project of this scale were to move from concept to implementation, it would necessarily involve a complex series of trade-offs. The potential benefits are indeed compelling, ranging from the massive infusion of clean, renewable electricity to the establishment of a long-term tax base and stable lease income for rural landowners. Additionally, the potential for co-location with battery storage and necessary grid transmission upgrades could alleviate some of the current bottlenecks plaguing the California power market. However, the path to such a development is rarely simple. Developers and stakeholders would face significant obstacles. Political and social resistance, local permitting processes, and regional politics often prioritize agricultural preservation over energy installation, leading to prolonged disputes over land use policy. Environmental concerns, large-scale habitat disruption, potential changes to natural drainage patterns, and the management of soil dust are significant environmental variables that require comprehensive study. Economic realities. The assumption of long-term jobs must be weighed against the reality that much of the employment in these projects is heavily front-loaded toward the construction phase, with fewer operational roles required once the facility is commissioned. Consequently, while the economic narrative is alluring, the reality of execution involves navigating a labyrinth of regulatory and community concerns. Strategic summary of the development narrative. In summary, the narrative of transforming 130,000 acres of agricultural land into a 21-gigawatt powerhouse is a compelling representation of the intersection between climate policy, water scarcity, and the green energy transition. The mathematical logic underlying the power capacity is sound, and the general direction of the proposal is consistent with California's long-term energy goals. However, the lack of verifiable documentation, specifically the absence of a named project entity or official government filing, means the claim currently resides in the category of speculative energy discourse. As the state moves further into 2026, it remains crucial to distinguish between high-level ambition and the concrete, transparent planning that defines successful, sustainable infrastructure. For anyone following the California energy landscape, this story serves as a reminder to prioritize official reporting and verify data when evaluating the feasibility of megaprojects that promise to reshape the state's economic and environmental future.